Friends, video is too big. If you don't want to watch the full video, then go to the description below the video. There I have written all the chapters and timestamps of the video. Just click on the timestamps, then video will start from where you want to watch. My channel name is Indian Epic History. Search this channel name on YouTube and select playlist option for all my videos like Ramayan, Mahabharat, Puran from starting. Otherwise, click the channel name or picture below the video, then go to the playlist. This is Bori Critical Valmiki Ramayan book, Ayodhya chapter 69. So let's start. Hearing the words spoken by the great soul Bharata and recognizing the voice, Kausalya spoke to Sumitra. Bharata, the son of Kaikaie, the perpetrator of cruel deeds, has arrived. I wish to see the far-sighted Bharata. She was trembling and she wasn't in control of her senses. Pale and dressed in faded garments, she told Sumitra this and left for where Bharata was. Meanwhile, together with Shatrugana, Bharata, Rama's younger brother, also left for Kausalya's residence. Bharata and Shatrugana saw the miserable Kausalya afflicted by grief. She had lost her senses and fallen down along the way. They embarked her. Kausalya, extremely miserable, addressed Bharata, "You desired the kingdom, and you have obtained the kingdom bereft of thrones. Thanks to Kaikaie, the performer of cruel deeds, you have quickly obtained it. My son, dressed in rags, has left to reside in the forest. What merit did the evil-sighted Kaikaie see in this? Kaikaie should quickly grant me permission to leave for the place where my extremely illustrious son Hiranyabhava is, or perhaps I can cheerfully live on my own, with Sumitra following me, with the Agnihotra fire in front. I will go to wherever Raghava is, means Rama is. But perhaps that is what you yourself desire now. You should convey me there where my ascetic son, tiger among men, is tormenting himself through austerities. This extensive kingdom, with its store of grain, riches, elephants, horses, and chariots, has been handed over to you. When she lamented in this way, Bharata joined his hands in salutation. Kausalya was suffering from many kinds of grief, and he spoke to her, "O noble lady, why are you reprimanding me? I am ignorant and innocent of any sin. You know that my affection for Raghava is great. The noble one is devoted to the truth and is best among virtuous ones. May the intelligence of anyone who ensured his departure never turn to the sacred text. May the servants of any such wicked person release urine in the direction of the sun. May the person who ensured his departure kill a sleeping cow with his foot. A servant who causes great injury and performs a great misdeed is imposed a punishment by his master. May the person who ensured the adharma of his departure endure the punishment. May the person who ensured his departure suffer from the sin committed by an individual who causes injury to a king who protects his subjects like his own sons. A king who extracts more than one-sixth of taxes makes his subjects suffer and commits adharma. May the person who ensured his departure suffer from that sin. An individual who promises ascetics dakshina at sacrifices and divides from the plague commits a sin. May the person who ensured his departure suffer from that sin. In a tumultuous battle where weapons are used, there are rules for fighting with elephants, horses, and chariots, and any deviation is not dharma. May the person who ensured his departure suffer from that sin. An evil souled person destroys the extremely subtle meaning of the sacred text taught by intelligent instructors. May the person who ensured his departure suffer from that sin without offering it first to seniors. There are those who pointlessly eat the shunned food of Pyasam, uh, Krishara, and goat meat. May the person who ensured his departure suffer from that sin. It is a sin to eat alone in one's house when one is surrounded by sons, wives, and servants. May the person who ensured his departure suffer from that sin. It is a sin to kill a king, a woman, a child, or an aged person, just as it is a sin to abandon a servant. May that kind of sin visit the person. Sleeping during both the sandhyas has been thought of as a sin. May the person who ensured his departure suffer from that sin. It is a sin to indulge in arson. It is a sin to transgress a preceptor's bed. It is a sin to cause injury to a friend. May the person suffer from that sin. It is a sin not to serve the gods, the ancestors, the mother, and the father. May the person suffer from that sin. It has been recounted that there are worlds for the virtuous and for those who perform virtuous deeds. May the person who ensured his departure be swiftly dislodged from those. Kaushalya had been deprived of her husband and her son. While comforting her in this way, the king's son was also overcome by grief and fell down. Bharata just Bharata had just taken extremely difficult pledges. Having taken those pledges, he had become unconscious. Kaushalya spoke these words to the one who was tormented by grief. O son, my sorrow has become greater. Through the plagues that you have taken, you are making me suffer even more. It is good fortune that, like Lakshmana, your soul is devoted to dharma. O son, you have shorn on the earth, and you will obtain worlds meant for the virtuous. Afflicted by grief, the great soul one lamented in this way. His mind was agitated, he was confused and racked by tides of grief. He lamented and lost his senses. With his intelligence devastated, he fell down on the ground. He repeatedly emitted long sighs. The night passed in the midst of such misery. Next chapter 70. In this way, Bharata, Kaikeyi's son, was tormented by grief. Vasishtha, foremost among rishis and best among eloquent ones, spoke to him, O fortunate one, O immensely illustrious prince, enough of this sorrow. The time has come to perform the last rites for the Lord of Man. Hearing Vasishtha's words, Bharata prostrated himself. The one who knew about Dharma performed all the funeral rites. The body of the king was raised from the vessel of oil. The face was yellow in complexion, as if he was asleep. The body was first laid down on the best of beds, decorated with many kinds of jewels. At this, Dasharatha's son lamented in great misery, O king, when I was away and had not returned from my trip, why did you send off Rama, who knows about Dharma, and the immensely strong Lakshmana on exile? O great king, abandoning this grieving people, where will you go? They have also been deprived of Rama, the performer of unblemished deeds and lion among men. O king, who will now think of yoga and Shema for this city? O father, you have gone and Rama has left for the forest. O king, without you, the earth is a widow and does not shine any more. The city seems to me to be like the night without the moon. Distressed in his mind, Bharata lamented in this way. The great Rishi Vasishtha again addressed him in these words: funeral and other rites need to be performed for the king. O mighty armed one, without any distraction or reflection, performed those rites. Bharata worshipped Vasishtha and agreed to his words. He quickly welcomed all the officiating priests and preceptors. Following the indicated ordinances, the officiating priests and assistants initially kindly kindled the fire for the king outside the fire chamber. The king's senseless body was then placed on a palanquin and borne by distracted attendants whose voices choked with tears. Ahead of the king, people advanced along the road, scattering silver, gold, and many kinds of garments. The funeral pyre was prepared with wood from Sharala, Padmaka, and Devdaru trees and sprinkled with the essence of sandalwood and aloe. Many other kinds of fragrances were flung there, and the officiating priests placed the king in the midst of all these. The officiating priests poured oblations into the fire and chanted, following the sacred text. Those accomplished in the Samaveda chanted Sama hymns. As each one deserved, the women mounted palanquins and vehicles surrounded by the elders. They left the city and reached the place. The king was on the funeral pyre, and the officiating priest circumambulated him anti-clockwise, with Kaushalya at the forefront. The women were lamented by grief, like the sound of female curlews. The wails of the women could be heard at the time. Thousands of them lamented in piteous tones. On the banks of the Sarayu, those beautiful women descended from their vehicles and distressed, repeatedly wept and lamented. With the royal women, the ministers and the priests, Bharata performed the water rites. Eyes full of tears, they entered the city. In misery, they spent 10 days on the ground. Next chapter 71. Next chapter 71. After 10 days had passed, the son of the king purified himself. On the 12th day, he performed the Shraddha ceremony. He gave Brahmanas large quantities of jewels, riches, food, many white goats, hundreds of cows, female servants, male servants, and extremely expensive houses. As part of the funeral rites, the king's son gave this to Brahmanas. On the morning of the 13th day, the mighty armed Bharata went for cleansing. He became senseless with sorrow and lamented. The words choked in his throat, extremely miserable at the foot of the funeral pyre. He addressed his father in these words: O father, I entrusted your care to my brother Raghava, but you exiled him to the forest, abandoned by you. I am alone now. O father, Mother Kausalya's refuge was her son, but you exiled him to the forest. O king, forsaking her, where have you gone now? He saw the red ashes and the burnt circle of skin and bones. He grieved that his father had given up his body. He was miserable on seeing the remnants and fell down on the ground. It was as if Shakra's standard had been raised but fell down because the machines to work the standard failed. All the advisors, pure in these vows, approached. It was like the rishis rushing to Yayati when the time for his death arrived. Shatrugana also saw that Bharata was overcome with sorrow. Remembering the king, he also lost his senses and fell down on the ground. If It was as if he went mad. He lamented in great misery. He remembered all the many qualities that his father had possessed. We are being agitated and have been immersed in this ocean of grief. This is because Manthara's terrible influence and Kaikaie is like a crocodile swimming in the two bones. O father, as a child you have always tended to the delicate Bharata, he is lamenting, abandoning him. Where have you gone? You have always given us everything that we desired food, drink, garments, and ornaments. Why don't you do that now? As a king, you knew about Dharma and were great souled. Without you, the earth should be shattered. Why is it not being shattered? Our father has gone to heaven, and Rama has restored to the forest. What is the point of remaining alive? I should enter the fire. I am without a brother. I am without a father. Ayodhya, ruled by the Ishvakus, is empty. Why should I return there? I should enter a hermitage. Hearing these lamentations and witnessing their distress, all their followers were again immersed in great grief. Both Shatrugana and Bharata were exhausted and distressed. They writhed around on the ground like insensate bulls whose bonds had been broken. Vasisth was the priest of their father, like a physician who restores to normalcy. Normalcy, he raised Bharata and addressed him in these words without exception. There are three kinds of opposite sentiments all living creatures have to face. Since this is inevitable, you should not behave like this. Sumantra knew about the truth. He raised Satrugana and comforted him, telling him about the origin and destruction of all creatures. Those two illustrious tigers among men were raised. They were as radiant as Indra's standard, having suffered through rains and the heat. Their eyes were still red and their speech was miserable, but they wiped away their tears. The advisers urged them to hurry with the remaining rites. Next, chapter 72. Bharata was tormented by grief and wished to undertake the journey. Shatrugana, Laxmana's younger brother, addressed him in these words: The spirited Rama is the refuge of all creatures. What can be a greater grief to us than that he has been exiled to the forest by a woman? Lakshmana is so named because he possesses strength and valor. Why did he not free Rama and restrain our father even before the act had happened, on considering good and had policy, and on seeing that the king had restored to a wrong path, having come under the subjugation of a woman, he should have restrained him. While Shatrugana, Lakshmana's younger brother, was speaking in this way, Kubja appeared at the eastern gate, adorned in every kind of ornament. She was radiant in royal garments and was smeared with the essence of sandalwood. Attired in colorful girdles, she looked like a female monkey bound with ropes. She was the perpetrator of an extremely wicked deed. On seeing her, the doorkeepers seized the cruel Kubja. Delivering her to Shatrugana, they said, It is because of what she did that Rama has left for the forest and your father has given up his life. This is the wicked and cruel one. Do what you want with her. Satrugana, first in his vows, was extremely miserable. He instructed all those in the inner quarters in these words: This perpetrator of cruel deeds has led to this great calamity and owed a debt to my brothers and my father. Let her reap the fruits of her action. Kubja was surrounded by her friends. Having said this, he powerfully seized her so that the residents echoed with her cries. Hearing Shatrugana's angry words, all the friends became extremely miserable and fled in different directions. All those friends come to the following conclusion: the way he is advancing, he will destroy all of us. The illustrious Kaushalya knows about Dharma and is generous and compassionate. Let us seek refuge with her. It is certain that she is our only refuge. The eyes of Satrugana, tormented of enemies, were coppery red with rage. He dragged the shrieking kubja along the ground as Manthara was dragged along the ground. Her many colorful ornaments were strewn around on the floor. When those ornaments were strewn around, the radiant royal palace was as resplendent as the autumn sky. The powerful one, bull among men, seized her in this rage. He reprimanded Kaikaie in harsh words. Kaikaie was extremely miserable and pained at these harsh words. Terrified of Shatrugana, she sought refuge with her own son. On seeing her and the angry Shatrugana, Bharata said, among all living beings, woman should never be killed. She should be pardoned. Kaikeyi is wicked and evil in conduct. However, Rama is devoted to Dharma and will be angry if I were to kill my mother. But for this, I would have killed her. Raghava has dharma in his soul. If he gets to know that this kubja has been killed, it is certain that he will not speak to you or to me. Hearing Bharata's words, Satrugana, Laxmana's younger brother, controlled his rage and released Manthara. Manthara fell down at Kaikeyi's feet, suffering greatly. She lamented piteously and sighed. Flung away by Shatrugana, Kubja was senseless and grief-stricken, like a female curlew that had been captured. On seeing her, Bharata's mother gently comforted her. Next chapter 73. Next chapter. It was the morning of the 14th day. Those entrusted with the task of anointing a king assembled and addressed Bharata in these words: Dasharatha, senior to all our seniors, has gone to heaven. Rama, the eldest, has been exiled, and so has the immensely strong Lakshmana. O greatly illustrious king, you should be our king now. Without a leader, it is fortunate that the kingdom has not suffered from a calamity so far. O Raghava, O son of a king, with everything required for a consecration, our own relatives and the citizens are awaiting you, O Bharata. Accept this great kingdom of your father and grandfathers, O bull among men. Consecrate yourself and save us. Bharata circumambulated all the vessels kept for the consecration. Firm in his vows, he replied to all those people in our lineage, it has always been proper that the kingdom should be vested with the eldest. O those who are accomplished, you should not speak to me in this way. My brother Rama is eldest to me, and he will be the Lord of the earth. I will reside in the forest for 14 years. Let a large and extremely strong army with the four kinds of forces be yoked. I will bring my elder brother Raghava, means Rama, back from the forest, placing all these objects required for the coronation in front of me. For Rama's sake, I will go to the forest. With these objects, I will consecrate that tiger among men there. I will bring Rama back like bringing back the sacrificial fire. I will not allow the one who pretends to be my mother to be successful. I will reside in the impenetrable forest and Rama will be the king. Let artisans create a path through flat and uneven terrain. Let those who know about impenetrable paths protect us along the way. For Rama's sake, the son of the king spoke in this way. All the people replied in these supreme and excellent words, since you have spoken in this way, let Padma always be with you in the form of Shri. You have desired to give away the earth to your elder, the son of the king. They heard those supreme words spoken by the son of the king. Because of their delight, tears of joy fell down from their noble eyes. Hearing those words, the advisers and the counselors were delighted and abandoned their misery. They said, O Supreme among men, following your instructions, devoted men and large numbers of artisans will be engaged to construct the road. Next chapter 74. Those who knew about land and the region, those accomplished with strings, brave ones engaged in their own tasks, diggers, those who worked with machines, laborers, architects, men accomplished about machines, carpenters, road builders, those who would cut down trees, those who would dig wells, those who would do plaster work, those who would work with bamboo, and those who were capable departed, placing the supervisors at the front. That large crowd of men departed joyously and was as radiant as the great forest of the ocean at the time of the full moon. They were accomplished in building roads, and each engaged himself in his own appointed task. With his own respective implement, they thus advanced. Those people cleared away creepers, lanterns, shrubs, trees, and rocks. Cutting down many kinds of trees, they created a path. Some planted trees in spots where there were no trees. Others used axes, hatchets, and sickles to cut down thickets. Others, strong ones, stronger than the others, removed clumps of virana grasses here and there. They labeled the impenetrable parts. Some filled up wells and pits with earth. Some labeled the spots that sloped downwards, bridges and built where they could be constructed. Throughout the region, the men crushed and shattered obstructions that stood along the way. In a short while, many canals and wells were built. There were many such, and some of them looked like oceans. In spots where there was no water, many excellent wells were dug and decorated with platforms around them. The surface of the road was plastered and lined with blossoming trees on which intoxicated birds chirped. The road was decorated with flags. The road was decorated with many kinds of flowers and sprinkled with water mixed with the fragrance of sandalwood, constructed for those many soldiers. The road was as radiant as the road to heaven. The supervisors were men who had been instructed for the purpose. In a beautiful spot that had many kinds of succulent fruit, they constructed a residence for the great soul Bharata, adorned with many kinds of ornaments. This itself looked like an ornament. Those who knew about such things determined an auspicious nakshatra, and at the time, camps were set up for the great soul Bharata. Each of these was surrounded by moats and walls of earth. Each of these possessed excellent roads and looked like sapphires. There were garlands and mansions and walls and fortifications were erected around them. Each had excellent and large roads decorated with flags. The tops of the mansions were like vimanas and extended up into the sky. As they rose up, they were as resplendent as Chakra's city. With many trees and groups, the roads approached the Janavi, which was full of cool and sparkling water and populated by giant fish. The clear and sparkling night is radiant with the moon, and a large number of stars constructed progressively and auspiciously by the artisans. The beautiful royal road was as resplendent as that. Next chapter 75. Next chapter 75. There were birds and minstrels eloquent in the use of words. On that Nandimukha night, they praised Bharata with auspicious words of praise. There was a drum that was used to sound the progress of the yamas. This was struck with a golden drumstick. Hundreds of conch shells with loud and soft notes were blown. The sky was filled with the extremely large sound of trumpets. Bharata was already tormented by sorrow, and this increased his grief. Awakened by the sound, Bharata instructed that it should cease. He said, I am not the king. He next told Shatrugana, O Shatrugana, look at the great injury Kaikaie has caused to the world. King Dasharatha has left, releasing his grip on me. The royal prosperity with Dharma and its foundation belongs to the great souled king who followed Dharma. It is now being tossed around like a boat without a steersman in the water. On seeing Bharata senseless, lamenting in this way, all the women wept piteously in loud tones. When they were lamenting in this way, the immensely illustrious Vasishtha, who knew about the dharma of kings, entered the assembly hall of the Lord of the Ishvakus. It was beautiful, decorated with molten gold, gems, and jewels, and was like Shudharma. The one with Dharma in his soul entered with his followers. The one who knew all the Vedas seated himself on a golden seat that was strewn with spirits. He then instructed the messengers without being distracted quickly, summoned the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, warriors, advisors, and leaders of the armies. We have to perform an extremely urgent task. A large and tumultuous sound was generated as chariots, horses, elephants, and people started to assemble. Bharata arrived like Shatakratu of the immortals, and all the subjects greeted him as if he was Dasharatha, adorned by Dasharatha's son. The assembly hall was like a lake with tranquil waters filled with water gems, conch shells, gravel, whales, and serpents, just as in earlier times it used to be with Dasharatha. Next chapter 76. Next chapter. The well designed assembly hall was full of noble people and was like the night adorned by the full moon. Bharata, full of understanding, saw it. The noble ones were seated on their own respective seats, and he saw it dazzling like a night of the full moon after the end of the monsoon. The priest, knowledgeable about Dharma, looked at all the royal and ordinary people and addressed Bharata in these gentle words, O son, having followed Dharma, King Dasharatha has gone to heaven. He has given you this prosperous earth full of riches and grain. Rama is virtuous and upholds the truth. Remembering Dharma, he did not cast aside his father's command, just as a rising moon does not cast aside the full moonlight. Bereft of thrones, your father and your brother have given you this kingdom, enjoy it. with the delighted as advisors quickly arranged for the coronation, led those from north, from the west, from the south, those without kingdoms, and those from the boundaries of the ocean brings you crores of jewels. Hearing these words, Bharata, knowledgeable about Dharma, was filled with sorrow. He mentally thought of Rama and desired to ensure Dharma. In a voice overcome with tears and in a tone like that of a swan, in the midst of the assembly, the youth reprimanded the priest. I have followed brahmacharya and having acquired learning, have bathed. I am intelligent and endeavor to pursue dharma. How can someone like me steal someone else's kingdom? How can someone born from Dasharath steal a kingdom? Both I and the kingdom belong to Rama. You should speak in accordance with Dharma. He is elder and superior, possessing Dharma in his soul. He is the equal of Dilipa and Nahusha, as did Dasharatha. Kukutsha should receive the kingdom. If I commit this crime, I will act like a ignoble person and will not go to heaven in the world. I will become the defiler of the lineage of the Ishwakus. I do not take delight in the wicked act perpetrated by my mother. From here I am joining my hands in salutation and bowing down before the one who is in the impenetrable forest. He is supreme among bipeds, and I will follow King Rama. Raghava deserves the kingdom of the three worlds. Hearing these words in conformity with Dharma, all the courtiers shed tears of joy, their minds immersed in Rama. If I am incapable of bringing back the noble and from the forest, I will reside in the forest as the noble Lakshmana is doing. I will use every means, even force, to bring him back. I will present the noble one before this assembly of virtuous people who possesses all the qualities. With dharma in his soul and affectionate towards his brother, Bharata spoke in this fashion. Sumantra, skilled in counsel, was nearby, and he addressed him in these words: O Sumantra, arise, follow my command, and go quickly, summon the forces, and ask them to leave swiftly. Thus addressed by the great soul Bharata, Sumantra cheerfully instructed that everything should be done as he had desired. The ordinary soldiers and the commanders of the forces were delighted on learning about the journey to bring back Raghava, means Rama. Knowing this, in every house, the wives of all the warriors were also filled with joy and urged their husbands to hurry. The commanders of the forces urged all the forces, horses, bullock carts, chariots that were as fleet as through and warriors. Bharata saw that the army was ready. In the presence of his preceptor, he spoke to Sumantra, who was by his side. Swiftly prepare my chariot. Happy, he accepted Bharata's instructions. He yoked the chariot to excellent steeds and brought it ready to leap. Raghava was powerful and firm in adherence to the truth. He spoke what was appropriate. He was firm and truth was his valor. The illustrious one wanted to go to the great forest to seek the favors of his elder. Bharata said, O Sumantra, arise quickly and go. Tell the leaders of the forces to yoke the army. For the welfare of the worlds, I desire to seek Rama's favors and bring him back from the forest. The son of the Sutta was thus directly instructed by Bharata. To accomplish his desire, he instructed all the leaders of the ordinary soldiers, the commanders of the armies, and the well wishers. Every family arose and started yoking chariots to camels, mules, elephants, and well bred horses. Royalty, vesyas, uh, Vishalas and Brahmanas. Next chapter 77. Next chapter, when it was morning, Bharata arose and wishing to see Rama, ascended an excellent chariot and swiftly departed. All the ministers and priests ascended chariots that were like the sun's chariot, yoked to horses, and proceeded ahead of him. There were 9,000 elephants that had been prepared in the proper way. They followed Bharata, the delight of the Ishvaku lineage, on his journey. There were 6,000 chariots with archers armed with many kinds of weapons. They followed illustrious Prince Bharata on his journey. There were 100,000 horses and riders. They followed illustrious Prince Bharata Raghava on his journey. Kaikeie Sumantra and the illustrious Kausalya leapt on the radiant vehicle, delighted at the prospect of bringing Rama back, cheerful in their minds at the prospect of seeing Rama and Lakshmana. That noble assembly left, conversing about his wonderful exploits. He is mighty armed and as dark as a cloud. He is firm in his spirit and firm in his vows. When will we see Rama, the dispeller of the world's misery? As soon as we see him, Raghava will dispel our grief, just as the rising sun dispels darkness from all the worlds. Delighted, they addressed each other in these auspicious words. The citizens embraced each other and proceeded. There were others there who were respected merchants and ordinary people. All of them also left delighted at the prospect of seeing Rama. There were some who worked with gems, those who fashioned beautiful pots, those who were carpenters, those who made weapons, those who worked with peacock feathers, those who used saws, those who fashioned ornaments, those who pressed gems, those who worked with tusks, those who works with plaster, those who made their living through fragrances, famous goldsmiths, those who wove woolen blankets, those who bathed and attired people, physicians, incense makers, those who distilled liquor, washermen, tailors, leaders of villages and habitations, dancers, fishermen, and their women, all of them proceeded. There were self-controlled Brahmanas learned in the Vedas and respected for their conduct as astride thousands of bullock carts. They followed Bharata. They were attired in pure and excellent garments, anointing themselves with red sandalwood paste. All of them swiftly followed Bharata on many kinds of vehicles, delighted and comforted. The soldiers followed Bharata, Kaikeyi's son. The army was thus stationed there. On seeing the army following him and Ganga full of auspicious waters ahead of him, Bharata accomplished in the use of words spoke to all his advisers. It is my desire that the entire army should set up camp. They are exhausted. We will cross this great river tomorrow. I desire to descend into the waters of the great and offer the funeral water rites to the king who has left for heaven. Hearing his words, the self-control advisors agreed. They arranged for separate camps for everyone in accordance with each one's wishes. They carefully set up camps on the banks of the great river Ganga. With all the equipments, the army looked beautiful. The great soul Bharata resided there thinking about how he would bring Rama back. Next chapter. Next chapter 78. The banks of the river Ganga were full of flags. On seeing this, the king of the Nishadas spoke urgently to his king. From the here, this giant army is seen to have the appearance of an ocean. Through I have been thinking about this in my mind. I cannot see an end to this. There is a giant Kovidara standard on a chariot. Perhaps he will blind our fishermen or slay us. Dasharath's son Rama has been vanished from the kingdom by his father. Perhaps Bharata, Kaike's son, has advanced so as to kill him. Rama, Dasharath's son, is my lord and my friend too. To accomplish his desires, armor yourselves and remain on this bank of the Ganga. Let all our servants station themselves along the river Ganga. Let the army subsist on meat, roots, and fruit and protect the river. Let there be 500 boats, each with 100 fishermen. Let them remain ready. This varies his instructions. If Bharata is kindly disposed towards Rama, only when will he be allowed to safely cross the Ganga now. Having said this, Guha, the lord of the Nishadas, took fish, meat, and honey as offerings and approached Bharata. The powerful son of the Suta saw him approach and the humble and spoke to Bharata with humility. The Lord is surrounded by 1,000 of his kin. He is knowledgeable about the Dandaka forest and has also been your brother's friend for a long time. O Kukusha, therefore let Guha, Lord of the Nishada, see you. There is no doubt that he will now know where Rama and Laxman are. Hearing the auspicious words spoken by Sumantra, Bharata replied, let Guha see me quickly. Having obtained permission, Guha was delighted. Surrounded by his kin, he humbly approached Bharata and spoke these words. The region is like a pleasure garden, and we are your subjects. We are presenting ourselves before you. Reside in this family of your servants. These roots and fruit have been collected by the Nishadas. There is fresh and dried meat and large amount of inferior and superior forest fare. I hope your army will eat and spend the night here. After accepting this deserved object of desire, you can leave tomorrow with your soldiers. Next chapter 79. Next chapter 79. Thus addressed by Guha, the lord of the Nishadas, the immensely wise Bharata replied in words that were full of purport and meaning. O friend of my senior, an army like this is extremely large. Your desire to extend hospitality to them is indeed great. Having spoken these excellent words to Guha, the immensely energetic and prosperous Bharata again addressed the lord of the Nishadas in these words. O Guha, which route should I follow to reach Bharadwaja's hermitage? This difficult region is impenetrable and the waters of the Ganga are difficult to cross. Hearing the words of the intelligent prince, Guha, who was used to traveling in impenetrable regions, joined his hands in salutation and spoke these words, O immensely illustrious prince, these self-controlled servants who are archers will follow you. I will also follow you. I hope you are not going because you harbor ill intentions towards Rama. Unblemished in deeds, this large army leads me to suspect that Bharata was as clear as the sky. Thus addressed, he spoke to Guha in gentle words. Let there never be such a time. You should not have suspected me. Raghava is my elder brother and is like a father to me. Kukutsa is residing in the forest and I am going to make him return. O Guha, you should not think otherwise. I tell you this truthfully. Hearing the words spoken by Bharata, his face became joyful and delighted. He again addressed Bharata in these words, you are blessed. On the surface of the earth, I do not see anyone like you. Through you did not strive for it, you obtained this kingdom and you wish to cast it aside. Your deeds will indeed be recounted in this world for an eternity, since you wish to bring Rama back from the calamity he is in. While Guha was addressed Bharata in this way, the sun lost its radiance and night arrived. Tended by the Guha, the handsome one made the army set up camp and with Shatrugana lay down on the bed. As he thought about Rama, who did not deserve this kind of misery, the great soul Bharata grieved. He only looked towards Dharma at the time of a forest conflagrance, conflagration. A fire can be hidden inside a hollow tree, like that in an inner fire burned and tormented Raghava, generated by this fire of grief. Perspiration exuded from all over his body, just as the rays of the sun scorch snow on the Himalayas and make them flow. His thoughts were like mountainous caverns. His sights were like dark minerals. His misery was like clumps of trees. His sorrow and exhaustion were like summits. His swooning was like that of beasts, his torment was like herbs and bamboo. Kaikeie's son was assailed by great grief, and that was like a mountain. Thereafter, the noble Bharata composed himself and with his relative went and met Guha. Bharata was low in spirit, but Guha again assured Bharata about his elder brother. Next chapter 80. Then Guha, who was familiar with impenetrable regions, told the immensely immeasurable Bharata about the good conduct of the great soul Lakshmana. I spoke to Lakshmana, the possessor of qualities extremely attentive to protecting his brother. He remained awake, wielding an excellent bow and arrow. O father, this comfortable bed has been prepared for you, O descendant of the Raghava lineage. Lie down here comfortably and happily. You are used to comfort, and all of us are used to hardships. O one with Dharma in his soul, it is appropriate for us to remain awake and protect him. There is no one on earth whom I love more than Rama. Do not be anxious in your presence. I am telling you that this is not a falsehood. Through his favors, I desire to obtain great fame in these worlds. I wish to obtain great dharma. Not only mere Artha, Rama, my beloved friend, is lying down with Sita. With my kin and with bows and arrows in our hands, we will protect him. There is no one who wanders around in this forest who is unknown to me. In a battle, we are capable of withstanding an army with the four kinds of forces. Thus did I speak to the great soul Lakshmana. However, he only looked towards Dharma and entreated all of us. With Sita, Dasharath's son is lying down on bare ground. How is it possible for me to get sleep? Life or happiness, all the gods and asuras are incapable of withstanding him in a battle. O Guha, behold, with Sita he is lying down on a bed of grass. He alone among Dasharath's sons possesses his qualities, and he was obtained after great austerities and many kinds of exertions having vanished him. The king will not live for a long time. It is certain that the earth will soon become a widow. It is certain that the woman in the royal palace will utter great shrieks now and exhausted thereafter. There will be silence there. I am not hopeful that Kaushalya, the king, and my mother will survive through this night. Perhaps my mother will look towards Shatrugana and remain alive. However, Kaushalya, the mother of a brave son, I will be destroyed. My father will not be able to accomplish his heart's desire of getting Rama consecrated in the kingdom and countered and unsuccessful will be destroyed. When the time of my father's death presents itself tomorrow, all those who have been successful in their objective will perform the funeral rites for the king. The crossroads are beautiful and wide roads are laid down well. There are mansions and palaces decorated with all the jewels. There are hordes of elephants, horses, and chariots. There are the sounds of trumpets blaring. It is full of all the signs of welfare and populated by happy and healthy people. It is full of gardens for pleasure, and there are assemblies and festivals. They roam around happily in the capital that was my father's. When he has accomplished his plague of truth and the period is over, together with him, we will happy and well enter that place. Thus did the extremely great soul prince lament, standing there. The night passed. When the sparkling sun rose in the morning, they matted their hair. On the banks of the Bhagirathi, I happy conveyed them across. Both of them sported matted hair and were attired in garments made out of the barks of trees. They were extremely strong, like two leaders of herds of elephants. Those two scorcher of enemies wielded supreme arrows, bows, and swords. They glanced back at me and left with Sita. Next chapter 81. Hearing these extremely unpleasant words from Guha, Bharata started to think about the unpleasant words that he had heard. He was delicate and great in spirit. He was mighty armed and possessed the soldiers of a lion. He was young and handsome, with large eyes like lotus petals. He sighed for a while and after some time became extremely distressed. He suddenly fell down like an elephant that has been struck in the heart with a goad. Shatrugana was standing nearby. On seeing the state the unconscious Bharata was in, he was afflicted by grief and embracing him in his arms began to lament loudly. All Bharata's mothers were lean from fasting. They were distressed and miserable on account of their husband. They rushed towards him. When he fell down on the ground, they surrounded him and wept. Distressed in her mind, Kaushalya bent down and embraced him. Distressed by grief, she was affectionate towards him, as if towards her own child. Weeping, she asked Bharata, O son, are you suffering from any disease in your body? The royal lineage is now dependent on your remaining alive. O son, now that Rama has left with his brother, my survival is contingent on seeing that you are alive. King Dasharath has died, and you alone are our protector now. O son, I hope you have not heard anything unpleasant about Lakshmana or about my only son who left for the forest with his wife. The immensely illustrious one regained his composure in an instant, though he still seemed to be weeping. He comforted Kaushalya and addressed Guha in these words: Where did my brother Sita and Lakshmana spend the night? O Guha, where did they make their beds for lying down? What did they eat? Tell me. Asked by Bharata, Guha, the lord of the Nishadas, engaged in ensuring the welfare of the guest, reported the agreements he had made for Rama. There were superior and inferior kinds of food and many kinds of fruit. For Rama's consumption, I brought many such. Rama, for whom truth is his valor, confused all this. Remembering the dharma of Kshatriyas, he did not accept any of these. O king, the great soul one entreated us in this way, O friend, you must not accept. We must always give. With Sita, the immensely illustrious Raghava fasted and drank the water that had been brought by Lakshmana. Lakshmana drank the water that was left. After that, the three of them observed silence and controlling themselves, observed the Sandhya rites. After this, for Raghava's sake, Saumitri quickly brought kusha grass himself and prepared an auspicious bed. With Sita, Rama lay down on that bed, washing their feet with water. Lakshmana withdrew on this grass at the foot of this Inguda tree. Rama and Sita lay down and spent the night. Lakshmana's creature of enemies were armored, made and lizard skin on his palms and fingers. He tied a quiver full of arrows on his back. He strung a giant bow. Throughout the night he stood there, circling them with an excellent bow and arrows. I also stood there with Lakshmana. So were my kin without destruction, and with bows in their hands, like a great Indra, he protected him. Next chapter. Next chapter 82. With his advisors, Bharata heard this entire accurate account. He arrived at the foot of the Inguda tree and saw the spot where Rama had lain down. The great souled one told all the mothers, "This is where he lay down in the night with his body pressing down on the ground. He was born in an immensely fortunate lineage from the intelligent and immensely fortunate Dasharatha. Rama does not deserve to sleep on the ground." The tiger among men used to lie down on the bed spread with the best collection of covers. How could he lie down on the bare ground covered with hairy antelope skin? There was a palace with tops like vimanas with constant fortifications. The floor was decorated with gold and silver, and there were the best of carpets. There were wonderful collections of flowers and fragrances of sandalwood and aloe. It was like a white clouds in complexion, resounding with the sounds of a large number of parrots. There were the sounds of singing and musical instruments, the tinkling of the best of the ornaments. He always walked to the sounds of drums. At that right time, the scourger of enemies awake to the sounds of praise and ballads sung by many birds, minstrels, and recounters. I no longer have faith in truth being manifested in the world. My mind is indeed confounded. It is my view that all this is nothing but a dream. It is certain that there is no divinity who is greater than destiny. Since a person like Rama, Dasharath's son, had to lie down on the bare ground, the beautiful Sita is the daughter of the king of Videha and Dasharatha's beloved daughter-in-law. She too had to lie down on the ground. My brother made his bed on his bare barred ground, and as he tossed around in his sleep, the grass bears the marks of being crushed by his limbs, since here and there speaks of gold can be seen. I think that Sita must have slept on his bed without taking her ornaments off, since strands of silk have got attached to the grass. It is clearly evidence that Sita's upper garment must have got entangled. I think that the young and ascetic lady must have been happy lying down with her husband. Though she is delicate, Mathili cannot have experienced any sorrow. He was born in a lineage of emperors. He is the one who brings happiness to all the worlds. He is loved by all the worlds. He has cast aside his beloved and supreme kingdom. Raghava is handsome with red eyes and the complexion of a blue lotus. He deserves happiness, not unhappiness. How could he lie down on the ground, since he has followed her husband to the forest, whether he has indeed been successful in her objective without that great souled one? There is no doubt that All of us have suffered. The earth seems empty to me. Without anyone to steer it, Dasharatha has gone to heaven, and Rama has restored to the forest. Even Lakshmana, he resides in the forest. This earth is protected by the strength of his arms, and no one can covet it. The capital is unprotected, and ramparts are empty of guards, and there is no one to control the horses and elephants. The gates of the city have been thrown open. It is evident that the soldiers are distressed. Everything is exposed as if during a catastrophe. However, regarding it as poisoned food, even the enemies do not wish to taste it. From today, I will lie down on the ground or on grass. I will subsist on fruits and roots. I will always done matted hair and bark. For his sake, I will happily reside for the rest of the time in the forest. Thus, the plague will not be rendered false, through he will be freed from it. Instead of his brother Shatrugana will dwell in the forest with me. With Lakshmana, let the noble one rule over Ayodhya. The Brahmanas will crown Kukusha in Ayodhya. May the gods make this wish of mine come true. Bowing down my head, I will seek the favors and entreated him in many ways. He should not disregard me. However, if he does not accept it for a long time, I will live in the forest with Raghava. Next chapter. Next chapter 83. Having reached the banks of the Ganga, Raghava Bharata spent the night there. Walking at the right time, he told Satrugana, "O Satrugana, awake! Why are you still asleep?" So that means, friend, Lakshmana. Uh, so that means Lakshmana was sleeping. Okay. Sorry, Satrugana. Why are you still asleep? Quickly bring the fortunate Guha, lord of the Nishadas, here, so that the army can cross. Urged by his brother, Satrugana replied in these words, I am awake, I am not asleep. I have been thinking about the noble one, while those two lions among men were conversing with each other. Guha arrived, joining his hands in salutation. He spoke to Bharata, O Kukucha, did you easily did you happily spend the night on the banks of the river? Are you well with all the soldiers? Hearing Guha's words, which were uttered with affection, Bharata, devoted to Rama, addressed him in these words, O king, honored by you, we have happily spent the night. Let servants with many boats ferry us across the river. Hearing Bharata's instructions, Guha hurried. He entered the city and spoke to his relatives, Arise, awake. May you always be fortunate, fetched boats so that the army can be ferried across. Thus addressed the obeying the commands of their king, they quickly arose. From every direction they collected 500 boats. Some were marked with the swastika sign. Some were excellent with large whales. They were adorned with flags and sailed were unfurled. To the sounds of praises, Guha brought an excellent boat that was marked with the swastika sign and was praised with a white blanket. Bharata, the immensely strong Shatrugana, Kaushalya, Sumitra, and the other royal women climbed onto this. However, even before this, the priests, the preceptors, and the brahmanas climbed on. The royal woman followed, and so did the carts with provisions. The sky was filled with the sounds of camps being burned, people descending to the boats, and of vessels being carried. The boats with flags were steered by the servants bearing the pupil who was ascended. They traveled swiftly. Some were filled with women, others carried horses, some carried wagons filled with great wealth yoked to mounts. When they reached Other bank, the pupil descended the servants and king brought those boats back as if they were colorful toy boats. The elephants bore flags and signs of victory and were urged by drivers of elephants as they swam across with their flags. They looked like mountains, while some climbed onto boats, others crossed over to the other banks on rafts. Some swam across with the use of pots and pitchers, others used their arms. The fishermen helped the secret army cross the Ganga. At the time of Mitra Muhurta, they reached the excellent forest of Prayaga. The great soul Bharata confronted the army, and as each one wailed made them set up camp surrounded by the officiating priest, he left to meet Rishi Bharadwaja. Next chapter. Next chapter 84. From a distance that was 1 crore away, the bull among the men saw Bharadwaja's hermitage, asking the entire army to remain there. He proceeded with his ministers. He knew about Dharma, therefore, he cast aside his weapons and garments and proceeded on foot. He attired himself in silken garments and placed the priest ahead of him. When he could see, Bharadwaja Raghava asked the ministers to remain and went alone. Following the priest, on seeing Vasishtha Bharadwaja, the great ascetic, quickly got up from his seat and asked his disciples to offer argya. Having met Vasishtha, he recognized Bharata to be Dasharatha's immensely energetic son and greeted him. The one who knew about Dharma offered him argya and padya. He then gave him fruits and one by one asked him about the welfare of everyone in the family. He asked about his army, treasury, friends, and ministers of Ayodhya. However, knowing that Dasharatha was dead, he did not ask about the king. Vasishtha and Bharata also asked about his physical welfare, the sacrificial fires, trees, disciples, animals, and birds. Bharadwaja, the great ascetic, said that everything was well because he was tied to Raghava with bonds of affection. He then addressed Bharadwaja in the following words: You are the ruler of the kingdom. Why have you come here? Tell me everything about this, otherwise, my mind harbors a doubt. He is the slayer of enemies, and being born from Kaushalya is the extender of her joy. With his brother and his wife, he has been exiled to the forest for a long period of time. He is immensely illustrious in the world. However, because he was commanded by a woman, his father instructed him to reside in the forest of 14 years. He committed no crime. Do you wish to cause harm to him so that you can enjoy the kingdom bereft of thrones with your younger brother? Thus addressed by Bharadwaja, tears of sorrow began to flow from Bharata's eyes. He replied in an indistinct voice, If an illustrious one like you thinks in this fashion, I am devastated. I cannot even think of such wickedness. Do not accuse me in this way. I do not approve of what my mother did while I was away. I am not happy with her, nor do I accept her instructions. I have come to seek the favors of that tiger among men, worship his feet, and take him back to Ayodhya. Knowing my intention, you should show me your favors. O illustrious one, tell me where Rama, the Lord of the earth, is now. Satisfied, Bharadwaja addressed Bharata in these words: O tiger among men, you have been born in the Raghava lineage. It is appropriate that you should possess good conduct towards your seniors, self control, and an inclination to follow virtuous people. I knew what was in your mind, but I wanted to be absolutely certain. I asked you so that your fame might increase even more. I know where Rama, knowledgeable about Dharma, dwells with Sita and with Lakshmana. Your brother is on the great mountain of Chitrakuta with your ministers reside here today. You can go to that region tomorrow. O one who is extremely wise, O one who knows about Kama and Artha, act in accordance with what I want. With his intentions clear, Bharata generous in his outlook agreed to this. O son of a king made up his mind to reside in the great hermitage during the night. Next chapter. Next chapter 85. When Bharata, Kaikeyi's son, made up his mind to reside there, the sage made all the agreements to offer hospitality to the guest. Bharata said, "You have already offered me Padya and Argha and provided the guest with whatever forest fare in available." Bharadwaja smiled and replied to Bharata, "I know that you are kindly disposed and are content with whatever little is available. O bull among men, but I wish to feed your soldiers affectionate towards me. You should allow me to do this. Why did you leave your army at a distance and then come here? O bull among men, why did you not come here with your army?" Bharata joined his hands in salutation and replied to the store of austerities, "O illustrious one, I did not come with my soldiers because I was secret of you. O illustrious one, the best of horses, men, and excellent and crazy elephants are following me, covering an extensive area. They might cause damage to the trees, waters, ground, and cottages in the hermitage. That is the reason I come alone. When the Supreme Rishi commanded that the army should be brought there, Bharata instructed that the soldiers should be brought. He entered the place where the sacrificial fire was kept. He drank water and touched it. After this, he invented Vishwakarma to arrange for hospitality towards the guest. I invite Vishwakarma, I invite Twashtra too. I wish to extend hospitality. Let arrangements be made for this purpose. Let all the rivers that flows towards the east, those that flow towards the west, those that flows on earth that and those that flows in the firmament come there now for every direction. Let some have flows of Maria, let others have flows of other kinds of Sura, let others flow with cool water that is like sugarcane juice. From every direction I invoke the gods, the Gandharvas, Vashvavasuha, the Apsaras goddess, and female Gandharvas. I invoke Gritachi, Biswachi, Mishrakeshi, and Alambusha, those who tend to Shakra, means Indra, and those beautiful ones who tend to Brahma. Let all of them arrive with Tumburu and all the equipment. Kubera has a divine and eternal garden in a forest in the Kuru region. Let it manifest itself here with the leaves taking the form of garments and ornaments and the fruits taking the form of celestial women. Let the illustrious Soma arrange for excellent food and many of diverse kinds of bhakshaya, bhoja, chusya, and leha. Let the trees give rise to wonderful garlands. Let there be sura and other things to drink. Let there be many kinds of meat. The sage with infinite energy acquired through meditation and austerities pronounced this invocation in a trained voice. As he joined his hands in salutation, faced the east and meditated in the mind, one by one all those divinities arrived, a pleasant and auspicious breeze that delighted the soul and removed the sweat began to blow from the Malaya and the Dardura mountains. From the firmament clouds start to shower down flowers in every direction. The sounds of the drums of the gods could be heard. As the excellent breeze blew, large number of apsaras started to dance. The tones of the Venas of the gods and the Gandharvas could be heard. The gentle, harmonious, and rhythmic sound penetrated the earth, the firmament of the ears of living beings. Those divine sounds brought happiness to the eyes of man, and Bharata's soldiers saw what Vishwakarma had arranged. There was a flat region that was 5 yojanas in every direction. It was covered by many layers of grass and assumed the complexion of blue lapis lazuli. There was trees there, bilva, kapita, panasha, bijapuraka, Amalaka and Chusa laden with fruit. The divine forest arrived from the northern Kuru region, a divine river with many trees along its banks. Also arrived there were square and dazzling residents with stable and lodging for elephants. There were mansions and palaces with radiant turrets, with excellent gates, and royal residence was like a white cloud. This was festooned with white garlands and divine fragrance wafted through it. There was a square and extensive courtyard with coaches, seats, and vehicles. It was filled with all kinds of divine drinks and divine food and garments. Every kind of food what was prepared and placed in clean and sparkling vessels. All the seats were properly arranged and excellent beds were spread in handsome covers. With the Maharshi's permission, might armed Bharata Kaikaie entered the residence that was filled with jewels. All the ministers and priests followed him. On seeing that excellent residence, they were filled with joy. There was a divine royal throne there, with a whisk and an umbrella like a king. Bharata circumambulated it with his ministers. However, he only worshipped and honored the seat as if Rama was seated there. With the whisk made of hair in his hand, he sat down on a seat meant for an advisor. In due order, all the ministers and priests seated themselves. After this, the commander and the platoon leaders seated themselves. In a short while, on Bharadwaja's instructions, a river began to flow towards Bharata with Pyasam as its mud. Through Brahma's favors, divine and beautiful residents appeared on both banks of this, plastered with white clay. In an instant, on Brahma's instructions, 20,000 women arrived, adorned in celestial ornament. On Kubera's instruction, another 20,000 women arrived beautifully adorned in gold jewels, pearls, and coral. 20,000 apsaras arrived from Nandana. If a man was embarrassed by any of these, so women and apsaras come with vimanas. Okay, viman means he would be seen to turn mad. Narada, Tamburu, Gopa, Prarvata, and Surya Varchasa, these kings of Gandharva, started to sing in front of Bharata. O Bharadwaja's command, Alambusha, Mishra Keshi, Pundarika, and Vamana started to dance before Bharata. On Bharadwaja's command, divine garlands from the group of Chitraratha were seen at Paryaga. Through the energetic Bharadwaja's command, Bilva trees assumed the form of drummers. Uh, Bibhitaka's trees assumed the form of those who played on cymbals, and Ashwatha trees assumed the form of dancers. Sharala, Tala, Tilaka, and Nakta Malaka trees were delighted and arrived there in the form of kubjas and vamanas. On Bharadwaja's command, Shimshapa, Amalaka, Jambu, and other creepers from groups assumed the form of woman and said, O those who drink this liquor, O those who are hungry, eat the pyasa. The meat is fresh, eat as you will. 7 or 8 women massaged each man with oil and bathed him on the beautiful banks of the river. The woman with beautiful eyes cleansed them, and one after another whipped them. Those beautiful women made them drink horses, elephants, mules, camels, Surabhi's offspring, and other mounts were fed sugar cane and roasted grain mixed with honey, urged on by the extremely strong warriors of the Ishwaku lineage. A horse keeper no longer recognized his horse. An elephant keeper no longer recognized his elephant. The entire army was crazy, intoxicated, and delighted. All the objects of desire were satisfied. The bodies were smashed with red sandalwood paste, surrounded by large numbers of apsaras, and soldiers said, we will certainly not go to Ayodhya. We will not go to Dandaka. Let Bharata be well. Let Rama also be happy, having been tended to in this way. The foot soldiers and the riders and keepers of elephants and horses no longer recognized their leaders and told them that. Happy that thousands of men who had followed Bharata said, this is heaven. They had eaten the food that was like Amrita. However, when they looked at this divine food, they felt like eating again. In every direction, serpents, slaves, young women, and soldiers were all greatly content, attired in new garments. Elephants, donkeys, camels, bullocks, horses, animals, and birds were fed exceedingly well, and one share did not eat into another one's share. There was no one there who was in soiled garments, hungry and jaded. No man could be seen with his hair covered in dust. There was the meat of goats and wild boar in delicious sauces. There were fragrant and tasty soup cooked well in the juice of fruits. In every direction there were heaps of white rice decorated with flowers and were like flags. Amazed, the man saw thousands of vessels made out of rare metals. There were wells along the flanks of the forest, and their mud was turned into pyasam. The trees exuded honey and turned into cows that yielded all the objects of desire. The ponds were filled with Maria, while some were filled with venison and the meat of wild cocks and peacocks cooked in hot vessels. There were thousands of vessels made out of molten gold and well cleaned plates, pots, and shallow dishes filled with curds, shining fragrant and with the complexion of kafita fruit. There were lakes filled with curd mixed with spices, other being filled with white curds, still other were filled with pyasam and a heap of sugar. As they went down to the river, the men saw ointments, powders, arguments, and other objects used for bathing. There were swigs for cleaning the teeth, as white as the moon. White sandalwood paste was kept in caskets. There were polished mirrors and piles of clothing. There were thousands of pairs of footwear and sandals. There were collyriums, combs, brushes, umbrellas, and bows. There were colorful beds and couches to comfort the inner organs. The ponds of drinking were full of donkeys, camels, elephants, and horses. There were lakes that these could descend and bathe in, filled with lotuses and lilies. For feeding the animal, stores and gentle grass were seen in every direction, blue in complexion, Like lapis lazuli, the men were astonished to see the hospitality, the mercy, and arranged for Bharata. It was extraordinary, and like a dream, they spotted themselves there like the gods in Nandana. As they found pleasure in Bharadwaja's hermitage, the night passed, having taken Bharadwaja's permission, the rivers, the Gandharvas, and all the beautiful women went away to wherever they had come from. The men were crazy and intoxicated with liquor, smashed with divine sandalwood paste and aloe. Many kinds of excellent and celestial garlands were strewn around, crushed by the men. Next chapter. Next chapter 86. Bharadwaja was extended hospitality by Bharadwaja, having spent the night there with his retinue. He desired to leave. The rishi saw that the tiger among men had arrived. Hands joined in salutation, having offered oblation into the Agnihotra fire. Bharadwaja addressed Bharata, O unblemished one, have you spent the night happily, having arrived in our region? Have your people received hospitality? Tell me. The rishi, excellent in his energy, had emerged from his hermitage, thus addressed Bharata, joined his hands in salutation, and bowed down before him. O illustrious one, I and all the soldiers and mounts have spent the time happily. Thanks to you, the advisors and the soldiers have been satisfied with every object of desire. We have eaten well. We obtained an excellent abode. All our exhaustion and hardship has been dispelled. Having obtained everything, all our servants have also spent their time happily. O illustrious one, O supreme Rishi, I seek your permission to leave and approach my brother now. Please cast a friendly eye towards me, O one who knows about Dharma. Where is the hermitage of the great soul, one who is devoted to Dharma? Tell me which path I should follow and how far it is from this spot. Bharata, desirous of seeing his brother, asked this, and the immensely energetic Bharadwaja, great in ascetic, replied, O Bharata, 3.5 yojanas from here there is a desolate forest. Mount Chitrakuta is there, with beautiful caverns and groups. If you approach the northern flank, there is the river Mandakini, shrouded by blossoming trees and beautiful and flowering groves. Mount Chitrakuta is beyond the river ocean. It is certain that they are dwelling there in a cottage made of leaves and twigs. O Lord of the army, make the army full of elephants, horses, and chariots. Follow the southern part and go left and then south, O immensely fortunate one. You will then be able to directly see Raghava, or the woman of the king of kings, deserve to be in carriages. However, hearing about the part, they got down from their carriage and surrounded the Brahmana. Kaushalya was when, distressed in trembling, with Queen Sumitra and sage the sage's feet, and with her hands. Kaike's objection had not been accomplished, and she had been censured by all the worlds assembled. She to sage his feet. She then circumambulated the illustrious the and great sage, and distressed in her mind stood near Bharata. Bharadwaja from in his vows told Bharata, O Raghava, I wish to know the special characteristics of your mothers. Thus addressed by Bharadwaja, Bharata, who was devoted to Dharma and accomplished in the use of words, joined in his hands in salutation and replied, O illustrious one, this one is distressed and miserable, afflicted through fasting. She is my father's chief queen. You can see that she is like a goddess. Rama is a tiger among men with a valorous stride like that of a lion. Kaushalya gave birth to him, just as Aditi did to Dharta. There is the one who is distressed in her mind and clings to her left arm. She is like the branch of a carnicara tree, with dried flowers standing at the end of a forest. The queen's sons are the two brave princes Laxman and Shatrugana, for whom truth is their valor, and those complexion is like that of the gods. This is the one because of whom the lives of the two tigers among men have been destroyed and deprived of his sons. King Dasharath has gone to heaven. This is Kaikaie, who desired prosperity and is ignoble through noble in appearance. Know her to be my cruel mother, wicked in her determination. I discern that she is the root cause behind my great hardship. The tiger among men said this in a voice choking with tears, with his eyes coppery red. He sighted like an irate serpent. The immensely intelligent Maharshi Bharadwaja replied to Bharata in words that were full of meaning. O Bharata, understand that you should not ascribe any wickedness to Kaikeyi. Rama's exile will lead to the generation of happiness. Content Bharata honored him and circumambulated him. He instructed that the soldiers should be yoked. Divine chariots decorated with gold were yoked to steeds desiring to leap. Many kinds of people ascended there. There were female and male elephants with golden harnesses and flags. They leapt trumpeting like clouds at the end of the summer. Many other vehicles, large, small, and expensive, departed. The foot soldiers walked on foot, desiring to see Rama. The woman with Kaushalya at the forefront happily leapt on their excellent vehicles. The handsome Bharata and his companions left an auspicious palanquin that had been kept ready and was as radiant as the young moon, full of elephants, horses, and chariots, and great army left in this way, enveloping the southern direction like a gigantic cloud that had arisen. They passed through the forest that was full of animals and birds. The elephants, horses, and warriors were delighted, but they terrified the large number of animals and birds. As it penetrated that great forest, Bharata's army was resplendent. Next chapter 87. As that large army with its flags marched, the residents of the forest, that maddened leaders of the herds, were frightened and fled with their herds in every direction along forest paths, mountains, and rivers. Large numbers of bears, spotted deer, and ruru and antelopes could be seen. Dasharath's son, with Dharma in his soul, happily marched. He was surrounded by a roaring army with the four kinds of forces. The great soul Bharata's army was like the waves of the ocean and covered in the earth, like clouds covered the sky before showers, because of the waves of speedy horses and extremely swift elephants. For a long period of time the earth could not be seen. Having travelled a great distance, the mounts were extremely exhausted. The handsome Bharata spoke to Vasishtha, supreme among ministers, matching the appearance of this place with what I had heard. It is evident that we have reached the region Bharadwaja spoke about. This is Mount Chitrakuta, and that river is Mandakini. From a distance, the forest has the complexion of a blue cloud. The beautiful spot at the foot of Mount Chitrakuta is now being trampled by my elephants, which are themselves like elephants. These trees on the summit of the mountains are showering down flowers just as at the end of the summer. Dark and dense clouds shower down water on the earth. O Shatrugana, behold the spot on the mount frequented by Kinnaras. In every direction, it is now covered by horses like makaras in the ocean. These herds of deer are swept in food. They are being driven away like a mass of clouds driven away by the wind in the autumn sky. These trees are graced with fragrant flowers and have clumps of fruit that have the complexion of clouds like men from the south. This forest, terrible in form, used to be silent, filled with people. It now seems like Ayodhya to me. The dust raised by the hooves covers the sky, but swiftly carried away by the wind, thus causing me pleasure. O Shatrugana, behold, the chariots are yoked to horses and controlled by the best among charioteers. They are swiftly entering the forest. Look at these beautiful peacocks and birds. Terrified, they are entering their nest in the mountain. To me, this region appears to be extremely pleasant. It is evident that this is the residence of ascetics and the path to heaven. In the forest, there are many male spotted deer with female deer. Their beautiful forms can be seen as if they are decorated with flowers. Let the virtuous soldiers explore the forest to see where the two tiger among men, Rama and Lakshmana, can be seen. Hearing Bharata's words, the brave men with weapons in their hands entered the forest and saw some smoke. On seeing the smoke in front of them, they come and told Bharata, there cannot be a fire without man. It is evident that the two Raghavas are there. If the two princess tigers among men and scourges of enemies are not there, it is evident that the other ascetics who are like Rama must be there. Hearing their words, which were in conformity with what the virtuous would say, Bharata, the destroyer of the forces of the enemy, spoke to all the soldiers, remain here, you should not proceed further ahead, I will go alone with Sumantra and the preceptor, thus addressed in every direction. They spread themselves out there. Bharata looked towards the smoke and proceeded ahead. Bharata's army could see the smoke in front, but remained there, knowing that they would soon meet their beloved Rama. They were delighted. Next chapter 88. Dasharatha's son, who loved mountains and forest and was like an immortal, had lived near that mountain for a long period of time. He wished to please his own mind and bring pleasure to Vedahi. He showed his wife the beauty of Chitrakuta like Purandara to Sachi, O fortunate one. On seeing this beautiful forest, my mind is no longer distressed at being dislodged from the kingdom or from the absence of that well wishers. O fortunate one, behold this mountain populated by many kinds of birds, decorated with minerals. The summits rise up into the sky. Some places are like silver, others have the complexion of wands. Some places are yellow in hue, others possess the complexion of excellent jewels. Some have the complexion of topaz, crystal, and Ketaka. Other possesses the radiance of Jyotishara decorated with minerals. This spot in this Indra among mountains is dazzling. The place is surrounded by large numbers of many kinds of deers, elephants, hyenas, and bears. This spot in the mountain is radiant with many kinds of birds that aren't injurious. There are mangoes, jamuns, jackfruits, bamboos, bananas, tilakas, amlakas, nipas, canes, uh, dhanvana trees, and pomegranates. They are laden in flowers, they are laden with fruits, they provided shade, and the spot is beautiful. The place on the mountain is covered with such beautiful flowers. O fortunate one, behold these spirited Kinnara couples roaming around on the slopes of the mountains, delighted and in the thrones of desire. They have slung their words and their excellent garments from the branches. Behold the beautiful spots where the Vidyadharas are sporting with their women. Here and there on the mountain, shining waterfalls are emerging like most exhausting from crazy elephants. A breeze bearing the fragrance of many flowers wafts through the caverns, pleasing to the nose. Which man will not be delighted, O unblemished one, if I have to reside there with you and Lakshmana for many autumns? I will not suffer from any sorrow. It is beautiful with many kinds of flowers and fruit. Large numbers of birds populate it. O beautiful one, I am indeed enraptured by this wonderful summit. I have obtained two kinds of fruit through residing in the forest. I have followed Dharma in repaying my father's debt, and I have brought Bharata pleasure. O Vedahi, are you happy that you are in Chitrakuta with me? Look at these many kinds of things that bring pleasure to the mind, words, and the body. The kings and Rajrishis, my great grandfathers, have said that for objectives after that, one must reside in the forest since it is like Amrita in every direction. Hundreds and large boulders of this mountain are shining. There are many with many colors blue, yellow, white, and red. In the night on these Indramang mountains, the radiance of thousands of herbs can be seen shining with their own resplendence like the tips of flames from a fire. Some parts have a complexion of mansions, others possess the complexion of groups. O beautiful one, in other parts of this mountain a single boulder shines. Chitrakuta seems to have arisen after shattering the earth. In every direction, Chitrakutta's summit is seen to be auspicious. Behold, colored and fragrant white lotus and leaves of which provide excellent covers, while mats of kusha grass act as beds for those who wish to indulge in desire. O lady, behold, gardens of lotuses can be seen, crushed and cast aside by those who have indulged in desire. There are many kinds of fruits too. With many kinds of roots, fruit, and water, Mount Chitrakuta is superior to Vashvokashara, Nalini, and Uttarakuru. O lady, O Sita, with you and Lakshmana, I will roam around here for some time. I will obtain delight from extending the dharma of the lineage. I will engage in supreme rituals and follow the path of the virtuous. Next chapter 89. Maithili means Sita, and the lord of Koshala emerged from the mountain and saw the auspicious and beautiful waters of the river Mandakini. The lotus eyed Rama spoke to the daughter of the king of the Vidya, who possessed a face that was as beautiful as the moon and lovely sights. Behold the wonderful and beautiful banks of the river Mandakini, frequented by swans and cranes, and with flowers leaning down over it. There are many kinds of trees and flowers and fruit which grow along the banks. In every direction it is resplendent like Rajaraja's Nalini, herd of deer are drinking now and dirtying the water, the beautiful descendants into the water and creating great pleasure in me. O beloved one. At the right time, rishis who wear matted hair and have upper garments made up of bark and antelope skin immersed themselves in the river Mandakini. O large eyed one, there are other sages rigid in their vows. They follow the rituals, raised up their arms, and worship the sun god. On both sides of the river, the crests of trees are stirred by the wind and make leaves and flowers shower down, creating the impression that the mountain is dancing. In some places, the water sparkles like a jewel. In other, there are sandbanks. Behold the river Mandakini. In some places, it is full of siddhas. Behold the heaps of flowers that are shaken down by the wind. Behold the other and are floating away in the water. There are birds and the red ducks with extremely melodious voices. O fortunate one, there are ascending, uttering auspicious tones. O beautiful one, I think that is sight of Chitrakuta and Mandakini, and the sight of you are better than residing in the city. The Siddhas have cleansed themselves of seeing and possesses austerity, self-control and restraint. They always treat the waters. They should also have a bath with me. O Sita, immerse yourself in this Mandakini. It is like a friend to me, friend to you. O beautiful one, O immersed yourself amidst a red and white lotuses, O lady, think of the predatory beasts as citizens, this mountain as Ayodhya and this river as Sarayu. Lakshmana has dharma in his soul and his mind is devoted to commands, O Vaidehi. You are also kindly disposed towards me, and this causes me delight. I bathe thrice a day. I subsist on honey, roots, and fruit. With you, I don't desire Ayodhya or the kingdom now. These beautiful waters are agitated by herds of elephants, lions, and apes drink it. Blossoming fires adorn the ground. Who is there who will not overcome his exhaustion and be happy there here? Rama spoke many other appropriate words about the river. Chitrakuta possessed the complexion of collyrium used on the eyes. With his beloved, the extender of the Raghu lineage roamed around in that beautiful spot. Next chapter 90. While they were there, Bharata's soldiers approached. The noise and dust created by them rose up and touched the sky. At the moment, terrified by the great noise that was created, the crazy leaders of hardship were afflicted and, with their hearts, fled in different directions. Raghava heard the clamor that was created by the soldiers. He saw that all the herds were running away. Having seen them run away and having heard the noise, Rama spoke to Saumitri Lakshmana, who blazed in his energy. O Lakshmana, alas, Saumitra has given birth to a good son like you. A tumultuous sound can be heard like the terrible and deep thunder of a cloud. Is a king or a prince roaming around in the forest in search of a hunt? Or is it some predatory beast? O Sumitri, you should find out. You should quickly find out everything about this. Lakshmana swiftly ascended a flowering shala tree. He glanced towards all the directions and looked at the eastern direction. He saw a giant army in a northern direction. It had a large number of chariots, horses, and elephants, and well trained infantry. There were many horses and elephants. The chariots were adorned with flags. He told Rama about the army and spoke these words: O noble one, extinguish the fire and let Sita find refuge in the cave. Ready your bow, arrows, and armor. At this, Rama, tiger among men, replied to Lakshmana, O Saumitri, look at the signs. Whose army do you think this is? Lakshmana was like an enraged fire wishing to burn down the soldiers thus addressed. He replied to Rama in these words: "It is evident that having accomplished the objective of obtaining the kingdom and having been crowned, Bharata, Kaikeyi's son, is coming here to kill us. An extremely large and dazzling tree can be seen on a chariot, a standard with a kobidara raising up its shining trunk can be seen. As they will, horse riders are prancing around astride their horses. They are resplendent and delighted riders astride the elephants. O brave one, let us seize and bows are extended the mountain, or let us remain here, armored and with weapons upraised in a battle. Perhaps the Kobidara's standards will come under our control, O Raghava. Perhaps we will see Bharata, because of whom we, you, Sita, and I have faced this great hardship, O Raghava. You have been dislodged from the eternal kingdom because of him, O brave one. That enemy Bharata is approaching. He should be slain by me, O Raghava. I do not see any sin attached to slaying Bharata. If one abandons a person who has caused an injury earlier, no adharma has been said to be attached to that. When he has been killed, you will rule over the entire earth. Kaikeyi desires the kingdom. In the encounter today, she will see her son slain by me, like a tree by an elephant, and will be extremely miserable. I will also slay Kaki with all her followers and relatives. Today I will free the earth from this great taint. O one who grants honors because of the sight, my rage has been ignited, and I will destroy the soldiers of the enemy like a fire amidst dry wood. Today I will mangle the bodies of the enemy with sharp arrows and make the forest of Chitrakuta overflow with the consequent blood. The hearts of elephants and horses will be shattered with arrows. Predatory beasts will drag them away, and the bodies of the men who are killed by me. In this great forest, I will repay my debt to my bow and arrows. There is no doubt that I will slay Bharata with his soldiers. Next chapter 91. Saumitri Lakshmana was enraged and senseless with anger. Rama pacified him and spoke this word: "In this case, where is the need for a bow, sword, or shield? The great archer and immensely wise Bharata is coming himself. Bharata wishes to see us, and this is the right time for him to come here. Even in these shouts, he has never acted injuriously towards us. Earlier, has Bharata ever acted disagreeably towards you? Why are you sacred in this way? Why are you created in this way, and why are you suspecting Bharata today? Indeed, Bharata should not hear these cruel and disagreeable words from you. If you speak disagreeably about Bharata, it is as if you have spoken disagreeably about me, O Saumitri. Even if there is a hardship, how can sons slay their father? How can a brother slay a brother whom one loves like his own life? If you have spoken these words for the sake of the kingdom, when I see Bharata, I will ask him to give the kingdom to you. O Lakshmana, in truth, if I tell Bharata to give you the kingdom, he will reply in words of assent." He was thus addressed by his brother, who was engaged in his welfare and followed dharma and good conduct. In shame, Lakshmana seemed to shrink into his own body. On seeing that Lakshmana was ashamed, Raghava said, "I think that the mighty armed one has come here to see us. This Vaidehi has been used to great happiness. Perhaps he has thought of taking her home from residence in the forest. O brave one, Two excellent horses, beautiful and born of noble lineages, can be seen. They are swift and like the wind in their speed. Ahead of the army, an extremely large elephant is walking. His name is Shatrunjaya, and he belongs to our intelligent and aged father Laxmana, who was victorious in assemblies, got down from the top of the shala tree. He joined his hands in salutation and stood by Rama's side. Bharata has instructed that the soldiers should not cause any destruction. Therefore, they set up their camps all around the mountains. The army of their Ishwakus, full of elephants, horses, and chariots, covered the area around the mountain to the extent of 1.5 yojanas. Bharata placed Dharma at the forefront and gave up any sense of pride. His army was properly instructed to remain in Chitrakuta in this way. The one who knew about good policy found pleasure in seeking the favors of the descendant of the Raghu lineage. Next chapter 92. The Lord made arrangements for the army to be camped. Supreme among those who walked on foot, he then sought to approach Kukutsa, who was following his senior on foot. Once the soldiers had been camped as they had been instructed, Bharata humbly addressed his brother Satrugana in these words: O amiable one, with groups of men and trackers to aid them, you should quickly search the forest on all sides of this forest. I will not obtain peace until I see Sita, Rama, the immensely strong Lakshmana, and the immensely fortunate Vaidehi. I will not obtain peace until I see the auspicious face of my brother, which is like the moon and which has eyes like lotuses. I will not obtain peace until I place the feet marked with all the signs of my brother, the king, on my head. I will not obtain peace until his head is sprinkled with water for crowning him in this kingdom of our father and grandfather. He is the one who deserves the kingdom. The immensely fortunate Vaidehi, Janaka's daughter, has been successful in their objective. He is the one who follows her husband on this earth right up to the frontiers of the ocean. Mount Chitrakuta is like the king of the mountains. Since Kukutsa is residing here, like Kubera in Nandana, it is extremely fortunate. This impenetrable forest is populated by predatory beasts. Since the immensely energetic Rama, supreme among those who wield weapons, reside here, it has been successful in its objective. Having said this, the immensely energetic Bharata, bull among men, energetically entered that great forest on foot. The summit of the mountain was densed with many different species of trees, with flowers blossoming at the top. The supreme among eloquent ones proceeded through them. On Mount Chitrakuta, he climbed up a flowering sala tree and saw the smoke from Rama's hermitage curling up like an unpraised standard. On seeing this, the handsome Bharata and his relatives were delighted, like those who have been able to cross a lady of water. Having instructed the army to again set up camp, the great souled one quickly proceeded with Guha towards Rama's hermitage on Mount Chitrakuta. Next, Next chapter 93. Bharata instructed the soldiers to be camped. Having shown Satrugana, he left Ajar to see his brother. He asked Rishi Vasisth to quickly bring the mothers. Devoted to his seniors, he then quickly went on ahead. Sumantra was as anxious to see Rama as Bharata was. Therefore, he also followed Sir Shatrugana at a distance. The place was full of the abodes of ascetics. As Bharata proceeded, he saw a handsome cottage. This was his brother's, constructed with leaves. In front of the cottage, Bharata saw that wood had been splintered and flowers had been gathered because of the cold. He also saw in the forest huge heaps of the dung of deer and buffaloes. As he proceeded, the mighty armed and radiant Bharata cheerfully spoke to Shatrugana and all the advisors. I think that we have reached the spot Bharadwaja spoke about. I think that the river Mandakini cannot be far from here. These barks must have been tied by Lakshmana. These are signs to mark the path. In case one wishes to return at odd times, the slopes of the mountains are marked with the tusks of spirited elephants as they roamed around the trumpet at each other. In the forest, ascetics always desired to light fires. The smoke can be seen trailing black plums. I am delighted that I will see the noble tiger among men here, devoted to attaining to his seniors. Raghava is like a Maharshi. After having proceeded for some time along Chitrakuta, Raghava reached Mandakini and spoke these words to the people. The Indra among men, the tiger among men, seated himself on the ground in Virasana in this desolate spot. Shame on my birth and life. It is on account of me that the immensely radiant Lord of the world has faced this hardship, having given up all the objective of desire. Raghava is residing in the forest. On seeing that large, sacred, and beautiful hut made out of leaves in that forest, Dasharath's son lamented in this way. It was large and covered with many delicate leaves from Shala, Tala, and Ashwakarna trees. It looked like a sacrificial altar covered with kusha grass. There were many heavy bows that were like Shakra's weapons. These were immensely heavy, capable of obstructing the enemy. They were ornamented and overlaid with gold. There were arrows in the quivers. These are terrible, like the rays of the sun. They were adorned with blazing tips like serpents in Bhogavati. The place was adorned with two swords that were in sheets of silver. It was also adorned with two colorful shields and were dotted with gold. Colorful fingers, guard mad and lizard skin hung there, decorated with gold. The large number of enemies were incapable of assailing the spot like deer attacking the cave of a lion. A large sacrificial altar slopes down towards the northeast and it's blazing like the fire. It in Rama's sacred radiance. Bharata saw this. After looking at this for an instant, Bharata saw his senior Rama seated there in the cottage wearing a circle of matted hair. He was attired in black antelope skin and garments made out of bark. He saw the fearless Rama seated there like a fire. His soldiers were like those of a lion. He was mighty armed and lotus eyed. He followed Dharma and was the lord of the earth, right up to the frontier of the ocean. On the ground covered with darba grasses, the mighty armed one was seated there like a eternal Brahma and with Sita and Lakshmana. On seeing him, the handsome Bharata was overcome with grief and confusion. Bharata, Kaike's son, with Dharma in his soul, rushed forward. On seeing him, he started to lament in an afflicted tone. This, his voice choking with tears, he was incapable of remaining patient and spoke these words: O ordinary people, worship my brother in an assembly. The ordinary people worshipped my brother in an assembly, while animals now attend to him in the forest. Earlier, the one who follows Dharma possessed many thousands of garments. He has now covered himself in deerskin. Earlier, he decorated himself with many colorful flowers. How can that Raghava now bear this mass of matted hair? He observed the prescribed sacrifices and accumulated a store of dharma. He is now following a path of dharma that involves operation of the body. His limbs used to be smeared with expensive sandalwood paste. How can this noble one's limbs now be smeared with filth? Rama was used to happiness, and it is because of me that he is facing these hardships. Same on my life because of my cruelty. I am condemned by my world. Distressed, he lamented in this way. His face was like a lotus, and it began to perspire. Bharata wept and fell down at Rama's feet. Bharata, the immensely strong prince, was tormented by grief, having said, O noble one, he was so miserable that he was unable to say anything further. His voice choked with tears, and he glanced towards the illustrious Rama. He could only loudly say, Noble one, and was incapable of saying anything more. Weeping Satrugana also worshipped at Rama's feet. Rama also shed tears and embraced both of them. In the forest, Sumantra and Guha saw those sons of the king, like the sun and the moon in the sky, together with Venus and Jupiter. Those princes met in that great forest like a leaders of herds of elephants. All the residents of the forest saw them and forgetting all their happiness started to shed tears. Next chapter.